Hi. In response to the racist capital video, I've got a number of comments to make in regard to that. I feel that somehow we're not being objective here, and I think the gentleman posting this video is also failing to acknowledge the fact that the South African government had a responsibility, or still has a responsibility, towards trying to level the playing field. Because as you can imagine, it was quite a good number of years where black people were really deprived of being what they wanted to be. And for you to merely think that it will take 13 years to level the playing field, you're very much wrong. If you look to look at figures currently, you would see that there's still a great number of, in terms of percentage and proportion to the population, there's still a great number of high positions that are still held by white people. And government's objective is to try and level the playing field and try and make it as proportional as possible to the race population. For instance, black South Africans account for close to or slightly more than 80%. And if you look at the current positions in top managerial positions, most of it's in that area, it's still white dominant. And that is why we have policies such as affirmative action. Your major concern is that you never had a role in apartheid, and it's something that you never literally had a hand into. But I hate to break this down to you, but it is definitely something that you had an advantage to. Maybe not directly, but indirectly through your parents. I can tell you that now, if it wasn't for apartheid, I would probably be in a better position because my parents would have been in a better position. So, unfortunately, you have to take the medicine as well. However, please don't paint the picture that there is no future for you in South Africa. We know that South Africa has a very much need for educated human capital, and so if you go out there and you educate yourself, there's definitely a job for you. Not with a matric, that much you won't get, like you were suggesting. Um, Now, there were a number of issues that you mentioned about the young generation. What I can tell you is that I have hope in the young generation of South Africa. I feel that in years to come, 10, 15, 20 years to come, our country is going to be ruled by people that had the privilege of growing up in an hopefully no non-racial uh, societies and communities. And so I believe that in the future to come, the issue of race is going to be a minute issue compared to what it is now. I mean, what is happening now is something that was definitely expected. A transition like this is not expected to take 13 years, because in itself the policy took a lot more years. So we should give the transition period a lot more time. Um, in terms of you spoke of a young boy in the street painting a picture, and you say him blaming apartheid for it. I can tell you that yes, he probably can say that. Now, there is no way you can dispute that what happened in apartheid times is still affecting us today. You cannot dispute that. I can give you a very practical example of the townships that we have. Soweto, for one, which you probably know, is an area that where the white people literally took people out of developed areas and threw them into those areas that were so underdeveloped, lack of water, the infrastructure, the works. And I mean, you could probably Google a picture of Soweto now, you see what it looks like, and it still looks like that. And there's no way you can say that the apartheid government is not responsible for that. However, in terms of our government, what it's trying to do now, they have made a lot of progress in terms of trying to introduce those infrastructures in the townships. There was a gentleman here who spoke of figures regarding the number of houses that South Africa has built, and I'm sure you can find those as well. There's definitely progress in that regard. You mentioned that we should get over this whole racial and apartheid issue and just build a bridge. And as easy and simple as it may sound, it is not that easy, because that bridge has to be built at a time where we are probably all on a more or less level playing field. Um, we have to somehow rule out the advantage that white people had in the past, and so we need to give people a step higher, black people rather, a step higher than white people, and that is what affirmative action is doing. And hopefully, in the near future, it will be something of the past. Well, I'm sure that is going to be the case. We're not going to have affirmative action forever. That I can assure you. And if you can come and tell me that someone said that will be the case, but I can assure you that person won't be around for forever. So there will come a time when affirmative action goes away. In terms of OR Tambo, I think you've proven exactly the point why they have named the international airport after OR Tambo. OR Tambo was a man that had played a major role, major intrinsic role in terms of overcoming apartheid in this country. And through the naming of the international airport after him, they are trying to acknowledge that, and they are trying to educate people about the role that he played. And so, now the tourists that are coming in here are obviously going to investigate who the man is that the airport was named after. And I can tell you now that the adjustment to the name has not been it hasn't affected tourism at all. You can even do that investigation and see whether any, tourism figures have been affected. And I can assure you that I've worked with a lot of tourists, and they definitely like and to familiarize themselves with the names that we have here. We should never compromise what we would like to do, maybe because tourists will think this and that. Yes, we must acknowledge the fact that our tourism industry, generates quite a lot of revenue for our country, but I feel that that should not limit what we want and what we want to achieve as a country. Um, my last point, yeah, you obviously have very negative views about our government, and I'm sure you have your reasons. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we have a perfect government. No, we don't. However, given the circumstance that our government is operating under, we are, the government is doing a fairly good job. Yes, there are areas where they can improve, but you know, you choose to look at the bad side, and most people, like myself, also sometimes choose to look on the positive things that our government has done. But I'm not going to ignore the negative things that you've mentioned that our government is failing in. But I believe that it's very easy to point fingers, and the challenge to all South Africans is that we're all seeing the problems, and the government's hand really is not long enough to reach everywhere. And so, as South African citizens, we have some obligation to give a helping hand. For you to have given that little kid bread or something, it would not have hurt you. In that way, you're playing your part, you're playing a role. And I think that's the challenge that we all have, that we should not say government is responsible for everything, government this, government that. It's very easy to blame and point fingers. At the end of the day, we as citizens also have some form of responsibility, and so where we can, let's play our part. But we must give credit, a bit of credit, to our government. In the past years, they've done quite a great deal, but also they have major challenges, and you know they are looking to work towards those issues. The issue of crime, for instance, it was highlighted as the main priority in the budget speech this year, or not the budget speech, but the presidential speech, opening speech of Parliament. And so obviously that should tell you that they're acknowledging the problem, and they're going to look to address it. How effective is it going to be? That's what we can always question that. But one thing that we can always say is that as citizens, there is some form of role that we can play in all these dilemmas and problems that are facing South Africa. So let's all try and be positive about it, and let's do exactly that. Um, let's blame on government, and let's do a little more. Then maybe our country can be a better place in that way. Yeah, that's basically it for me.